Hello, everyone, and welcome to this on-demand edition of Her Seat at the Table AHA session. Thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. Today's conversation focuses on a topic that touches every aspect of our lives, yet many of us were never taught to navigate it with confidence: money. This session is about building greater awareness around how we earn, protect, grow, and transfer wealth in ways that support the future we envision for ourselves and for our families. Wherever you are on your financial journey, I hope you leave feeling more informed, empowered, and inspired to take your next step. I'm delighted to introduce our featured guest, Janet Home. Janet is a CPA turned financial strategist who helps professionals build, protect, and maximize their wealth through strategic, tax smart planning. She works with individuals to create personalized roadmaps towards financial independence and is a passionate about expanding financial literacy to help impact more than 1 million families over the next decade. Janet, thank you for joining Her Seat at the Table community and for sharing your knowledge with us. We hope this conversation sparks a few meaningful aha moments along the way. Let's begin.
Great word. So I appreciate her and appreciate this community a lot. So how did I get started? Maybe like some of you, my parents immigrated. I never fully understood what my parents gave up for our family until I became a parent myself. Right? My parents immigrated from Canada and left behind their career as medical professionals so that my sister and I could have the opportunity they never had. And like many immigrants' families, they start over from scratch. I grew up watching them work hard, saved carefully, and put family first in everything they did. And at the time growing up, I thought that was normal. But looking back, I realized there was a lot of courage, sacrifice, and just the faith it took to leave everything familiar behind and build a new life in a new country. And so that shaped my values and continues to guide me, how I live and work today. Today, I want to say my sister and I have built successful careers and families of our own. My parents are enjoying retirement, but really one of my greatest priorities is to make sure they can do so with peace of mind and financial security. And after, everything they've sacrificed for us, I want them to know they don't have to carry those concerns or those burdens anymore. And so, even with my professional journey as a CPA, as I was developing all of these understanding of accounting and tax, eventually I realized that a lot of these lessons about building, protecting, and transferring wealth were just never taught in school. And so I learned that wealth isn't just about how much we earn. It's about making these wise decisions, minimizing unnecessary tax, protecting what we've built, and just creating opportunities for people and causes that matters the most. And it was really because of my parents and my journey here. That's how I started in looking for ways for my own family, for my parents. And then as I learned, I found that, you know what? I think a lot of people need this as well. So that's long story short, or maybe long answer to your question, Connie. That's how I started.
Beautiful. Now I'm going to pause and go back for 1 second. We do have a poll question. There's two questions. We would love to launch it and kind of get some of your feedback on where you are in your journey as well. So I just launched it. So take a look at the poll. Two questions there. First one is which best describes your current financial setup? So everything is mixed together, some separations, but inconsistent, business and personal, mostly structured, and then fully structured the systems in place. So I think this is really a question about your finances from a business perspective or personal. And then your second question is, which area do you feel least confident about right now? And there's a couple of options for you to choose from as well. Give you a second to provide your responses.
And I should add, there's no right or wrong.
Mhm.
And it's anonymous, right, Connie?
Yes, we don't know who answered what, so feel free to be extremely honest here. Everyone's answered? Okay. Um, I'm going to share the results. I'll just read them out. 75% have said some separations, but inconsistent. So there's
Mm.
opportunities. And then the other 25% indicated everything is mixed together. So
Mm.
maybe just on that first question, like what's your advice on like why did you ask that question in your poll? And what do you want us to think about from that element?
So just to recap, Connie, you said for the first one, most people said everything mixed together. Is that what I heard?
75%, which is the
75.
most. Some
Yeah.
separations, but inconsistent.
Ah, some separate. Okay. Okay. So that's good. So I guess the question is inconsistent, meaning there's just too much going on, not sure, or because they don't know. I guess I don't know if you're comfortable answering, but it's a good thing that not everything's mixed together. I'll give you that. It's a good start, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I will share openly with myself. Like I would answer some separations, but inconsistent as well. So I have my personal bank accounts and I
Good.
have business bank accounts. But sometimes by accident, I will make purchases under my business account by accident, like my personal purchases under my business, or vice versa, where it's a business expense, but I charge it to my personal. So there is some inconsistencies for myself in that question and answer.
Yeah. So to your point, sometimes it's just human error, right?
Mhm.
Because there's so many cards, so many accounts, and it's just human error. It's just going back to seeing. And at the beginning, I know when I started, I couldn't hire an admin, right? So I'm doing everything myself. Right. So the best thing, you're right, is to have like a business account, and a business credit card and a personal account and a personal credit card. Right. But of course, sometimes you're so used to just whipping out that card, you don't really think about it. And it's normal. So if that's where the inconsistency comes from, number one is just the awareness. Like many things, slow down, take a deep breath, and be like, okay, what is this? Is this a business expense, or is this a corporate, a personal expense? Right. And then decide, because for those of you that are incorporated, um, you can write off those expenses. But of course, for those that are personal, you can write off those expenses as well. But there are different implications as well, right? Because in the corporation, if just quick show of hand, who's incorporated? Okay. Other than Connie, everybody else isn't. Oh,
Daniel, I think, and Sharon just waved her hand too.
but Shireen's in India, so I don't know the tax laws in India. So I'm gonna focus on the Canadian law, okay, Shireen? So this might not apply to you. Because Connie, for example, you're incorporated, right? Your income and expenses goes into your corporation, which means if you need to pay bills, it's going to be all in your corporation. But if you need to draw money from your corporation for your day-to-day activities and expenses and whatnot, you have to take a salary or dividend. Right. So, and then there's tax implications once you take the salaries and dividends from a
Yeah.
personal tax perspective, right? So for those of you, say Sarah and Luxemon, if you're self-employed, right, all your expenses will impact your personal tax return, right? So there's other pros and cons in on that as well. But I think number one is having some separation is great. It's just making sure we're a little bit more consistent in that. At the end of the day, we have to know what's available. We have to know what we're owed, what's ours, what's not ours. Right? So that's why the separation is very, very key. And it sounds to me a lot of you already have that structure, and that's great, right? Because it helps create that effectiveness, right? Um, when we define, say, taxes, it's important to understand what's personal and what's business. But if we can't define that, it's very hard to plan that, even for your own personal finance. So structure is very important. And the administrative side of it is also important. So just making sure we understand and building that confidence, right?
Yeah, perfect. The second poll question, sharing the
Mm.
results here as well, is the question was, which area do you feel least confident about right now? And
Mm.
50%, half of us said long-term wealth and exit planning. And then 25% in two other areas is on taxes and compliance, and then
Mm.
incorporation versus self-employment decisions. So that's interesting. But I think half long-term wealth and exit planning, that's interesting as well. So Thank you, everyone. Did you want to add anything, Janet? At least now you know the profile of our kind of like questions we have potentially.
I do because this says a lot. Um, because what creates most risk for early founders is not bad decision, it's just unplanned decisions, right? And these are the biggest gaps typically where they sit in, right? Tax not being proactively managed, no clarity on when to incorporate, no protection strategy in place, and no long-term wealth framework. So this is really good because what's important to understand is that these are not advanced topics. These are just fundamental pillars for financial stability. And so if we don't address these early, they don't disappear, they compound, right? So financial planning isn't about reacting, it's about designing a system that prevent these unnecessary problems. So I love the fact that we know the awareness of it. And at the end of the day, most people don't need more effort. We just need better visibility in what's actually matter to us. So this is great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I'm gonna dive. I have a whole bunch of questions listed because personally for me, like money is just like who do I go to and who can I trust to ask? And Janet's a person. So feel free if you have your questions, dive into. But this one, the question is, why do you think conversations about money still feel so uncomfortable or forbidden for so many people? And I'm also curious for everyone, maybe between 1 and 10, how comfortable are you in speaking about money? If you can put in chat, feel free to put your number from 1 to 10, how comfortable you are. And then Janet, if you can maybe help answer from the hundreds of clients that you have, why is it so uncomfortable to talk about money, or why does it feel forbidden?
Yeah, I think part of it is culture, right? A lot of us were brought up or taught that money is private or even impolite to talk about. Or we hear sayings like, oh, money doesn't grow on trees, or it's hard to get, or, entrepreneurs and business owners are not good, things like that. But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, we all know money touches every part of our lives, families, goals, opportunities, even stress levels.
Hmm.
And I found that people often avoid the money conversation because they're afraid of being judged, embarrassed, or feeling like they just don't know, they should know more than they do, right? But unfortunately, what we don't talk about, we don't learn about, right? And so as a result, a lot of people make important financial decisions without having that safe place to ask questions or seek guidance. So
Hmm.
really, Connie, I appreciate you creating the space for everyone here to have these conversations. And financial literacy isn't something most of us were taught in school. For those of you that are in Canada, I know they said they're bringing it back. I'm asking my kids, they are, but they aren't, right? Because it really depends on the person also teaching them what they know. And that's why I believe that the more we need to be more open and honest and judgment free and have these conversations about money to create that space to learn and ask questions, but also empower ourselves and our future generation to make better financial decisions.
So we have some answers on the chat. Thank you so much, everyone, for being so honest, ranging anywhere from 2 to 7
Mm.
in terms of comfort level. And it's wild in terms of how like the different levels that we're at as well. And one thing that I'll jump into is the next question because we're in different stages of our career or in our business from a entrepreneurship perspective. And the one question is like, I've started earning in my business but I have no idea if I should stay as a sole on proprietor or incorporated. Like, when does it actually matter in terms of when we start kind of just doing freelancing and contracting as a sole versus incorporating, and what's the benefits from that?
Yeah, so number one, the biggest difference between sole proprietorship and corporation is it's a liability. Is a liability. So if you're a lawyer, high risk, right? Then you want to incorporate ASAP. It's not something you want to do on the side because there's a liability involved, right? If you are, say, selling, arts and crafts, for example,
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot of liability per se. Then you might want to start out as a solopreneur, like a sole proprietor, because then you can offset those taxes in your personal tax return. Because don't forget, once you're incorporated, you also have a different layer in accounting and taxes that you have to be aware of. right? Because you will no longer be able to, you can still do your books, right? But for filing taxes, you'll need an accountant. You need to hire an accountant to do your taxes. So that's another layer of maybe accounting and, finance fees that you
Mhm.
have to involves, right? So number one, that's, the liability, right? Number two is also the income. Okay. Some people start off, smaller, right? And then they don't really make sense for them to shelter their income in the corporation, right? So they can still have their own income. But once you get to the 200,000, 250,000 mark, that's when you really start to think about, hey, just from a financial perspective, does it make sense for me to be paying the highest tax bracket, or can I shelter some in the corporation so that it will continue to reinvest and maybe pass it to generations to come? Now that ties back to one of the questions at the beginning, the exit plan. That's amazing that some of you are already starting to think about the exit plan, because a lot of business owners don't think about that. We're so focused on just building the business, we don't think about the business plan. But it's so important because for those of us that used to work or are working, the exit plan for an employee is retirement, right? And I want to be honest that a lot of employees start thinking about retirement in day one because they don't like what they do. So there's an exit plan, right? But business owner is slightly different. We're in business because we enjoy, it's our passion to do what we do. So in that sense, we never think about retirement, or we never really think about the exit plan. But it's so
Right.
important because for a few things, right? Number one, I don't want to have to work until I can't work, right? Number two, at the end of the day, the exit plan needs to be planned ahead of time, not when I'm forced to be in that plan, especially because I'm my own business owner, which means that I have no one else to fall back on.
Mhm.
Right? So it's so critical to think about all of that. I hope that answered the question about sole proprietor and corporation. There's a lot more details, but I don't want to get too much into the weeds.
And everyone, if you're here, we'll be sharing Janet's contact information. So if you want to have like a one-on-one with her to dive deeper into any of the topics that we've raised today, feel free to do that as well. She's been very generous with her time. So don't hesitate to contact her.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to dive into the next question, and it kind of goes back to the first poll question as well. So, at what point should we stop mixing personal and business money? And what does proper separation actually look like? So, some of us kind of answered the inconsistency, but is there a best practice and like when we should really actually stop mixing it?
Yeah, it's so easy to just mix it, right? It's really the principle, but it gets often overlooked. We should separate as early as possible, even before it feels necessary. Why? Because financial clarity is not just the result of success, it's a requirement of it. When personal and business finance are mixed, three things happen. We lose visibility on the product profitability, right, of our business. We lose control over the cash flow decisions because now it's all mixed up. And then we lose the ability to plan tax strategically as well. And when we separate it and over into accounts like a business account, then we look at income generation and operating activities. When we have a personal account, we look at our lifestyle, our saving, and our personal obligation. Now, also don't forget the tax reserve. This is mandatory to set aside. It's not an optional saving. Whether you're, business or personal, we need to make sure we have that tax reserve, right? And once that structure is in place, our decision making gets easier. We don't have to keep asking, can I afford this? Versus it's more like, which category does it belong to? Because then it shifts, right? The financial discipline significantly. And then we can start thinking about tax forecasting, ownership compensation strategies, or long-term wealth building, because now we know we're not mixing the business and the personal. And a lot of times people don't realize that we're making financial decisions in the dark simply because we just have everything flowing all over the place, right? So this would help.
As you're answering, there's like so many aha moments, but more questions popping in my head because
Yes.
like it's everything you talked about was like the future of like financial planning, but at the same time, I feel like some of us are still in the early stages of our business, and often anything that comes in as a revenue sometimes we forget potentially also on the tax reserve. We know there's 13% we need to put away because that's GST or HST that goes straight to the government. But there's also that revenue, probably about at least 20%, I've been told in the past, that we need to put as a reserve because we're going to be dinged on that
Yeah.
as the government, right? So it's like 13 plus 20. So you're at 35% of whatever you bring in is technically not yours. So put that as a
Right.
separate savings account. You don't touch that. And then anything operational, you're literally money's in and money's out. It's kind of like a result, like revolving before we can even save and think about which buckets do we invest in now or save longer term. So like for me, it's just like, wow, okay, there's so much more,
Yeah.
so many steps. Um, Okay, so the question that you actually mentioned that's prompting this one is I know thinking about tax, but I don't know what I'm actually supposed to be planning for as a self-employed person. Because self-employed, it's like money is all coming to you. You think, like I mentioned, it's 13% is GST reserve. Maybe it's 20%, maybe it's more, maybe it's less. How do we know as a self-employed what we should actually put away for taxes?
Yeah, and that's very common, right, Connie? A lot of us start out as self-employed for whatever reason. It's some ease of just the structure, right? So
Mhm.
it's very common in the early stages. And you alluded to this, taxes isn't just about filing once a year or every quarter, right? It's about the ongoing positioning. And in Canada, once you hit your income to $30,000, you have to start charging HST if you haven't already done so, right? And then you really, like you're saying, Connie, whatever we collected doesn't belong to us. We can't spend it. We should put it aside, right? Um, and of course, the details is that whatever you buy that you pay HST for, you can also write off as ITC, right? But as a self-employed individual, there's a lot of, key planning areas that a lot of people kind of just miss, right? I'll go through three. Right? Number one is the income timing and smoothing. A lot of the times, especially at the beginning of an entrepreneur experience, there's irregular income, right? So it's hard to sort of predict. But taxes don't care about timing. They just care about the total annual income. And so that's why without planning, people often face a lot of large unexpected tax bill at the end, especially in June when we have to file June 15th, right? So if you haven't filed and you're self-employed, your taxes are due in 5 days. Um, Second, expense categories and optimization. Not all expenses are equal, right? Some are operational, some are capital, and some have long-term implications or deductions. So when we miscategorize them, it leads to inefficiency. So work with someone that has experience in, working with self-employed individuals. Now, if you're looking for like a professional designated, they will know what they're doing, right? But I know some people, they hire their friend or, their neighbor. That's a different story. You want to make sure they know what they're doing. Because at the end of the day, us, the entrepreneur, is going to get hit with our whatever tax bill. We're responsible, right?
Mhm.
Number three, sorry, Connie, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I have more questions.
Yeah, go for it. Fire away.
I'm going to jump into this one because it's kind of hot right now. So suggested that we need to hire the right person, and I think the question is often, who is the right person? What certification should we look for? What kind of history or background or education? So we don't actually go to our friend that says they know how to do it, but maybe they don't. They're not certified. They're not like properly educated to know exactly. Or if you're in India, you should look for like someone that actually understands the rules and the governance in that country. It's like, what is the guidance in what we should look for in terms of our expectation? It's like a resume, right? Like what should be in that person's resume for us to start feeling we can trust them, to work with them as our bookkeepers or whatever, or accountants, or what title should we look at?
Yeah, title wise, we're all CPAs now,
Mm.
right? So I'm not going to go through all the background, but we're all CPAs now. There is a destination, right? But destination is one thing. I always say the most important thing, if you ask me, is their experience. How many families, how many tax returns have they filed? How many of those are actually self-employed, like yourself, for example? right? And ideally, you want to look at someone that's have experience in your sector specifically. The reason why, at least a handful, right? The reason why they know the ins and outs of your expenses, your business, that would help tremendously, right? Um, I get we want to help our friends and family, right? To help us with our tax return. Hey, if they have the experience, I have no problem. Not whatsoever, right? And if you're starting out, there's not a whole lot going on, no problem. But as you continue to grow, you need someone else to help you, to guide you, not just someone who will prepare your tax return. That's just processing, right? You want someone to actually give you those advice. Hey, maybe you should put, you know, expense A in this category, or, as you grow your business, maybe these are some things that you need to consider, for example, right? So you want the advisory, not just someone who's processing your tax return. And again, it depends on where you are in your entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to endorse anybody here, but those are some of the questions you want to ask. One thing I always say is cheap isn't always better.
Mm,
You have to make sure you find someone that will give you the value, right? Because sometimes cheap means you're not getting the value or you're not getting the service that you need. And what if CRA comes back and say, 1, 2, 3 is wrong in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Like nobody wants that headache,
yeah.
right?
All right. Back to your number three before I interrupted with that question.
No,
Sorry.
it's okay. No, that's good. That's good. It's a conversation, right? Don't worry.
Yeah.
The third most overlooked is the future tax exposure. And a lot of us don't think about that because trust me, as your business grow, your income will also grow. And so that's the complexity, right? And that's when we start thinking about incorporating, hiring, investing back into the business. And that's where you need someone else to guide you, whether it's a business coach or a tax expert, to guide you through that, right? And so tax planning should shift from being reactive to more proactive, which means we need to start looking at setting aside tax reserve consistently, right? Reviewing the income structure periodically, making sure that we're aligning the business decisions with tax impact, because a lot of us will just look at the cash flow and make business decisions that way. And that's where the important piece, the critical piece comes in. A lot of us don't realize that we're overpaying or under planning simply because we just don't have a system or a guide in place for our decisions. And so tax efficiency isn't about loopholes. I know people talk about that a lot, but really
Mhm.
it's about the design.
Great. Thank you. Jumping on to the next question, and it goes back to one of the poll responses as well, is when should I start thinking about protection, like insurance, wills, and anything like that? So there's like the long-term wealth and exit planning kind of bucket in terms of the concerns that we have.
Yeah, yeah. And the honest answer is earlier than most people think. Much earlier, right? Because protection planning isn't about establishing enough, right? It's about understanding that once the income start flowing, something should be protected, right? And we say there are three fundamental layers. Number one is the personal protection, includes insurance planning like your life and your disability, right? Because if our income stops unexpectedly, our financial system should not collapse with it. What would happen? How would that impact my family, my loved ones? What if I just can't work for a few months? What would that look like? Right? I know, including myself, I don't want to think about it. But what if I need to plan for that? I need to plan for that. We talk about an emergency fund. Did you know? So emergency fund number one is money set aside for unexpected things that happen. For those that drive would be, a car repair. For those that have a home, maybe it's a roof repair. Maybe there's a leaky, faucet and basement or whatever that may be, right? But did you know that statistically, every 7 years, we'll dip into our emergency fund? If we don't have an emergency fund, what are we dipping into? Our savings, our line of credit, other debt. right? So we need to make sure that we plan that accordingly, right? So personal protection also includes an emergency fund to save us from dipping into that, emergency fund. And if we haven't dipped into that emergency fund, you know, you know what that means? It's going to come. It's kind of like, how we buy an umbrella. We have an umbrella. I want to say we all have an umbrella. It's not because, it's going to pour. We don't wish it to rain, but we all know it's going to rain one day. And that's having that umbrella is having that preparedness, right? Number two is the business protection. Because if our business depend on us directly, maybe key person consideration matter, then we need to really figure out what if something happened to the key person, to you, to me, what would happen to our revenue stream, our clients, our obligations? What does that look like? Maybe our vendors, right? So we need to protect that as well. And then number three, we call it structural. So it kind of goes back to the will and estate alignment, right? I would assume all of us here are above 18 years old, right? So do we have a will? No, I see some head shaking, right? That should be number one key, right? Why? Because at the end of the day, yes, those are our wishes. Those are our wishes when we pass, but also in Canada, there's also the power of attorney. It's who's going to make those decisions for us when we can't make those decisions. Maybe, this individual got into a car accident and now they're in a coma. Who's going to make health decisions for them? Who's going to make financial decisions for them? That's where the power of attorney comes in along with the will. It's a package if you go to the lawyer, right? And so why is wills and estate important? Because you also have a business. I was just talking about personal will. And there's also a secondary will in Canada, right? For our business, what would happen if we can't be there? And without this, we're leaving a lot of, planning entirely to chance and then legal default rules. We don't want that. Okay. So what most a lot early stage founders miss is protection is not separate from growth. It really enables the growth. It reduces the fragility. And from a planning standpoint, this is where we shift from how do I make more money to how do I ensure what I'm building is sustainable under any scenario. That's the foundation of real financial, you know, uh, maturity. I know there was a lot, Connie.
No, I love everything you say, but it feels like we have to get so much deeper, right? Because it's just not like you're not just starting a business because you have a passion for it. Now you're trying to protect it so what you build, it becomes not lost or gone or under certain, like it doesn't disappear after you leave and
That's
it's
right.
left in good hands. So it just makes you think a lot because right now sometimes it feels like we're just running with a big idea. We started a business, we registered for it. Now we can worry about taxes and GST and all that fun stuff, but also protecting it long term, but also and life insurance and business insurance and all that fun stuff. So there's a lot longer list of to-dos after this than I had expected.
Ah, okay. So
I
how
don't
about
know
I
how everyone else is feeling.
don't feel overwhelmed. I think number one is if you have to write down, I know we're not done yet, but a few takeaways. Number one is get your will done. I'm not a lawyer, okay? Find a lawyer that will do your personal and your business will, right? Sit down with them. Who are going to make those decisions for you? Because at the end of the day, that's the foundation of your business, of our business, right? So start with the protection piece, right? Your wills and your power of attorney. Number two, your insurance. Because if you think about it, even professionals have insurance. They're on a mission, right? Let alone, life and disability, right? Because we never know. Let's put it this way. We never know. So I want to make sure I have those structures in place, those foundations in place. Once I have those in place, then I can start thinking about building. How do I build? So do the marketing spend and all of that, right? It's all about priorities, Connie. You're absolutely right. I need to
Mhm.
grow my business, but I need to make sure my foundation is strong. Just like
Yeah.
building a house, I need to make sure, I have a solid basement, a solid foundation before I build the second level.
Mhm.
And so the basics needs to be there first.
Yeah.
And then we can start looking at, your strategy, your business strategy. Now I'm going to leave it to, the business strategists out there. I'm not there, right? Then you can think about that and then building your business step by step.
Mhm. It's like the next question. I feel like you just answered it.
Mm,
Um, the, but I'll let you clarify and maybe confirm. The question is, how early is it too early to think about an exit strategy for long-term financial planning? It feels like as soon as you start, you already have to think about all of those things.
yeah, because once you set it up, and it could change, it could pivot, right, Connie? Let's be
Yeah,
honest, because
yeah.
we're fluid with business owners. And exit strategy isn't when we're ready to sell. Maybe, we need to start thinking about, are we going to pass it to our loved ones or have a business partner, right? Exit thinking is not just about valuation, it's about the structure. Can our business operate without us? Is there transferable value that's being created here? Are we building income or an asset? Because these are very different financial outcomes. And from a financial perspective, planning perspective, early exit awareness helps us figure out how should we structure the income? How should we reinvest the profits? And how dependent is the business on us, on our personal time? Right? Whether we're building a scalable asset or just self-employed income, a lot of us need to start thinking about the active business that cannot function without us because that limits the long-term flexibility and the wealth conversion. So exit planning really is about the control. It ensures that we're not financially boxed later, right? And so the earlier we understand that, the more intentional our decisions will be.
Thank you. I'm going to pause. I still have a whole bunch of questions, but I want to make sure we take a moment to kind of go around within the people that are here with us today to get your feedback so far. And if you have any questions that you want to ask. So, Sarah, you're unmuted. So I'm going to ask you first.
No, I think this is all really valuable because I mean, I think Connie knows my story. I came from running a few businesses over in the US with my husband, and I kind of had the worst happen, and my husband passed away 7 years ago. So, and that was like in the middle of, of us building a business. And luckily we had insurances in place. And, but yeah, it's so important. Like everything you're saying is like spot on because I experienced it firsthand. So, and things like key man insurance, that's one thing we didn't have, unfortunately. So I wish that was, had been in place because I needed kind of help in that scenario, shutting down everything without my husband there. And he was definitely the key man in the business. So yeah, so I agree with everything so far. It's just, yeah, like to start earlier with this is the most important thing.
Sarah, I appreciate you sharing that. And it's unfortunate. A lot of times when we're healthy, we're like, "Oh, I don't want to think about it. I don't need to think about it. It can wait." Right? I am grateful you have insurance. It may not be key insurance, a key person, but you have insurance. Right? And that helped. And it's stories like this that where I really want to help people before this happens to anybody else.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Sometimes it's hard because they're like, well, I don't know anybody that's experienced it. So, you're just trying to sell me stuff. I'm like, I'm not. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Aaron.
Well, it's all very interesting, but I feel like it feels so much in the future to me because like I just started a business account and it's like all of these things like, ooh, make sure you have your will done, look for taxes, and I'm like, oh, I was just starting a business account just to have a business account, but there's so many more things I have to think about now.
Yeah.
Don't feel overwhelmed. I'm with you. It's one
So
step
many
at a
more.
time too, but at least now we get a bigger picture of all the things that you still need to consider, right?
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
helpful so far.
It's a good start. Like of course, part of it is understanding the big picture and the goal, right? So that now we know how to get there. It's kind of like a GPS, right? We got to tell it where to go, what our starting point is. Because otherwise, it's like, well, we'll be going round and round in circles or detours. and hope to get to our destination. But there's no hope in your business. You have a goal. You're in business for a reason. There are some things you want to achieve, right? And so it's the same thing here. If your goal is to, grow the business to X amount or X dollar or, help X amount of families, whatever that may be, that's your goal. Great. You have a goal. That's the bullseye. Now step back. This is where we are. Make the assessment. What are the step by step to get there? So I'm not your business coach. I'm just sharing with you some of the things that you need to start considering. I'm giving you the pieces of the puzzle so that now you've got on the on the puzzle box, there's that whole picture. You know what you're putting together. That's what it is. And then now you've got all the pieces. Now you know how to put them together to get to that puzzle. Right? So don't feel overwhelmed. These are just the pieces of the puzzle that we need to put together one by one. Erin.
That does make more sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Erin. Lusamon.
Yeah, I'm one of the overwhelmed team about money. Um, I just hiring someone to file my tax, and I still like don't know. Starting the business, I didn't get income from the business yet, so I didn't start anything. Have a business, don't even have a business account. So I kind of very at the beginning and still feel like what I need to do.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful.
And look, someone to your point, you don't really, especially at the beginning, some people don't even have a business bank account. Because once you go to the business bank account, they charge you more. It's kind of silly. But I wouldn't say there are ways around it, but just track it differently. Right? You just want to make sure you separate your business and your personal things. Yeah.
That's nice.
To that point as well, because there are some very early emerging talents and business owners, is there a space or a resource where they should look at as a checklist to kind of say, hey, here are all the different pieces of the puzzles. What does it look like so that they can start aligning themselves to be set up for success versus kind of looking back as like, oh, I have no foundation. I have no base. Like, where can we find like a baseline for people and for new business entrepreneurs to kind of like make sure they are set up for success?
Yeah, so I know, say the libraries, the American Public Libraries, your city have a lot of entrepreneur workshops to help people get started. So those are definitely really good resources to start. Yeah, our cities put up a lot of these programs, small business programs.
Thank you. Daniel, I know your camera's off, but do you have any feedback or questions you want to share?
Uh, oh, sorry. Sorry. I don't know, it's just good to like hear about this sort of stuff because I feel like I'm a little financially illiterate when it comes to like um entrepreneurship, what to do when I first like start my own business kind of thing. And it's nice to hear about some of the things I should consider. Like I would have never thought about like already doing my will when I don't really have anything started yet. But yeah, I guess like some of my questions right now would just be like, where is a good place to start? Where are some resources I could go to? But like from what you've talked about, it's nice to hear a few things I could be thinking about already.
Awesome. So you have some aha moments to take with you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Shireen.
Um, it, it was helpful. Like I was just thinking about the times while I was back in Canada and the taxes I have filed, and I was questioning, did I do it right? Obviously, just like Luxembourg, I also hired someone. So I was like still like, okay, no, I might have done the right thing hiring someone, but right now when I was listening to Janet and the way she was explaining about the taxes and about how we can safe keep our money and what are the right things, the exit plans. I know things are very different between Canada and India, but it's still a starting point where I can actually start thinking about it and, start educating myself and look into the things and look into how I can separate my personal finances and my company finances. So it was a great session for me.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing your feedback. All right. I still have a lot of questions, Janet. Are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, the next one, I thought this one was really interesting. If you can kind of share from
Mhm.
your experience, what are some of the biggest financial mistakes or missed opportunities you see professionals making today?
Yeah, there are three ones. Three, not understanding tax implications. So I'm gonna apologize, Sharon. This is mostly for our Canadians here, right? There's three main tax categories in Canada. Number one is taxable. Everything we earn is taxable, right? Income we make is taxable. When we spend money, we also have to pay tax, sales tax, right? When we make money, as in like our investments, there's interest income or dividend income. And when we sell investments, we have capital gains tax, right? And then lastly, when we pass away, we have to pay final taxes. Okay, so there's a lot of things that are taxed. Okay. Connie, do you have questions or you look like
No. Well, even when we pass away, we have to pay taxes. Like, who's going to pay our taxes?
You got it. And that's the piece a lot of us don't think about. If anything, Connie, that's the biggest tax bill
Mhm.
when we pass away, because the last time our government can tax us. Hey, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to teach people how to evade tax. No, I want to help people understand tax so they can legally minimize tax. Okay, that's very different. Okay. So to your point, who's going to pay those taxes? Through our estate. So we can talk about that later, or if there's a chance later on. So that's taxable. Everything is taxable. Number two is the tax deferred, meaning we don't pay taxes now, but we pay taxes later. So we're just deferring our tax. So have you heard of the RRSP, the Registered Retirement Savings Plan? Okay. That's when people are like, especially at the beginning of the year, oh, I'm going to put money in the RSP so I can get a refund. Yes, you do get a refund, but guess what? Now your entire RSP will be taxed down the road, right? When we take money out. And then people are like, oh, that's okay. I'll pay tax when the time comes. Two things. Number one, do you want your investments to grow? Do you think your investments will grow? Absolutely, they better grow, right? Because it's for my retirement, right? Number two, where do you think the tax rates are going to go? Do you think they're going to go up, stay flat, or decrease? Go up. So our investments are growing, our tax rates going up. What does that mean? Down the road, we're going to pay more taxes. And some people will argue, oh, but when I retire, I'm going to make less. So when I take the money out, I'll be less taxes. Not necessarily. That's number one. Number two, what if, and I've seen it in my clients as well, they don't live to that age to enjoy their own retirement. Now, all of that RSP is going to be taxed at 100% unless they have a spouse to pass it to. A lot of people don't understand that.
What do you mean by 100%?
Yeah. So
But they're
remember,
taking all of it?
RSP hasn't been taxed yet,
Mm.
right? Because we get a tax refund, right? So if we're a married couple, when one spouse passes, the RSP will roll over to the surviving spouse. So there's no tax implications yet. Okay. But for the single and the surviving spouse, when they pass away, the entire RSP account will be taxed. Not just a gain, the entire, because it has not been taxed. And a lot of people don't understand that, or no one told them. All people keep saying is just invest, invest, invest in RSP. And they maximize their RSP. But what we say is the RSP is a ticking tax bomb because we don't even know how much tax we're going to pay down the road.
Sarah's thinking very deeply about that one.
Yeah. And you should. And you should, right? Yeah, and you should, right? So that's why we're talking about, what are some of the, not mistakes, but missed opportunities
Mhm.
that professionals make. Why? Because professional makes good income. They make money, they save, but sometimes they don't know which bucket to save it in. I'm not saying it's bad to contribute to RSP, don't get me wrong. There's a place for it, right? But just understand the tax implications down the road, right? And then number three, so there's taxable, tax deferred, and tax advantaged, right? So everything grow in there is tax advantage, like our tax-free savings account, right? Do you know in Canada, what's the contribution room for our tax-free savings account this year in 2026? Any idea? Sorry, look, someone say that again.
Yeah, it's 7,000.
Perfect. Yes, it's $7,000, right? But there's a cap, which means if you contribute more than $7,000, there's a penalty. So CRA don't allow us to contribute more than $7,000. Okay. Did you know there's two other things that are tax advantaged other than the tax-free savings account? Not that I'm endorsing it, but gaming and lottery is also tax advantaged. Okay. Why? Because people end up either using it all, like spending it all, their winnings, or they'll have to find a place to put it into taxable or tax deferred. So down the road, the government will get us one way or another. Okay. The third tax advantage vehicle is the cash value in our life insurance. And I didn't even know that in the past. So when you think about your assets, think about which bucket they're in. Are they in taxable, tax deferred, or tax advantaged? I think most of us, if not all of us, want our money to grow in a tax advantage bucket. So it's all about shifting. It's not about creating more. It's about how do we shift within these buckets so we can grow more for ourselves, for our family, and for generations.
Did we all just have an aha moment there? I did. Okay. Moving on to the next question. So we talk about wealth. This is the wealth conversation, but what does it actually mean beyond income and salary?
Yeah. It's interesting because wealth for some people is having that extravagant lifestyle, right? Or owning material things, like living in a, I don't know, 3-house garage or 4, or driving an exotic car, or living like the celebrities, or have, name brands. But did you know that most people who try to live a wealthy lifestyle spend the money they earn or more? So they end up getting into a large amount of debt, right? And so I don't know if you've heard this saying, we buy the things we don't need to please the people we don't even like.
That's wrong.
I,
I buy the things I don't need because I want it to please me.
That's same with me. That's the same with me.
Unless it's a
Good.
Christmas or birthday gift for the families and friends I love, then that's a little bit different. But wow, okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Some of us may do it, or I'm sure you know some people that do it,
Hmm.
right? Just to please other people. But then what happens is they end up living in a lot of debt. Of course, they're not going to tell us until it's too late,
Mm.
right? We don't know from the outside. And let's be honest, you and I might be living beside a millionaire we don't even know. Millionaires aren't flashies. Many of them are not. Many of them are very giving and very generous with their time and also their wisdom. True millionaires are very humble. So typically people that want the wanna millionaires are the ones that are flashy and living in a lot of debt, right? So we say wealth is living within or below our means. And did you know there's a wealth formula, Connie?
No, what is it?
So it's money plus time plus or minus your rate of return, because your investment is going to have your rate of return, right?
Mhm.
So if it's plus, it means it's making you good return. If it's minus, it means it's not giving you good return. Okay, are we okay so far? So money plus time,
Yeah.
plus or minus rate of return, minus inflation,
Mm,
because inflation we can't control, and there's inflation, right? So if our rate of return equals inflation, our wealth formula is just net zero, right? So we got to minus out with inflation. And one last thing, minus taxes.
it's always taxes.
And you know, Connie, that's the part a lot of people forget.
Yeah.
So it's not about growing our wealth, it's growing our wealth tax efficiently. So thinking wealth beyond that income or salary, factoring all of that in, that's the wealth formula.
Mm. I feel like some of us might feel a little bit overwhelmed or maybe behind financially. What are the first couple steps to stay focused on?
Yeah. Number one, be aware of what your ins and outs. Okay. Meaning if you're making $1,000, but you're spending 1,500, you're in the red. So stop. Stop the spending and really look at where we're spending. Kind of going back to our conversation, before we start the session, what's a
Mhm.
need? What's a want?
Yeah.
Need is putting food on the table. A want's the latest gadget or that trip, right? So understand the need versus the want. Now, if we're still in the red, look for a second job or a third job. I understand, in this economy, it might be a little tricky, right? So be mindful of that. And then, of course, making sure we're living within or below our means to create that emergency fund, to make sure we have that buffer set aside
Mm.
for that rainy days, because it's going to come, it's just when.
Great advice there. I'm going to move on to the next one.
And I
So
just add one more
yeah.
thing, Connie, sorry to interrupt, because you mentioned being overwhelmed, right? So some of us may feel overwhelmed, and some of us may feel motivated to do something about it. I just want to acknowledge both are normal. Both are normal, right? One step at a time, one step at a time, by being aware of your finances first. Don't let the finance take control of you, right? I shared something recently. I don't know if I can bring it up quickly enough, but I shared it on my LinkedIn recently. Let me find it quickly. I don't know, Connie, if you saw that.
is it the sushi one?
No,
Like
it's
different one?
this one that says money speaks only one language. If you save me today, I'll save you tomorrow.
Ooh, I like that quote.
Right? And that's what it is. If we start saving money today, it will definitely save us tomorrow.
Mm, especially for the rainy days ahead that we cannot forecast.
Yeah. And you
Because
don't
the
have to
weatherman's
start.
never accurate.
Yeah. And don't panic. Don't try to fix everything at once. Right? We just have to know where we're at,
Mhm.
know what you earn, know what you spend, know what you owe and what you own, and then create that roadmap with that starting point. But if you don't know where to start, let's have a chat. Focus on that, on the basics. Build that spending plan. Create that emergency fund. Protect yourself, your family, right? And don't compare, I think most importantly is don't compare your journey to someone else. Because financial success isn't about how fast you go. It's about making that consistent, intentional decision over time. And small steps taken today can create a significant result in the future. And who cares about what everybody else is doing? None of them are going to pay your bills, right? Unless they're your client. That's a different story, right? But really, what is that one financial decision you can make this week that your future self will thank you for? That's the question to ask yourself. What is it what's one financial decision that you can make this week that your future self will thank you for? Maybe instead of going out for coffee, make your own coffee at home. That's easily maybe $2 to $5 a day. $5 a day, every single day, equals $150 a month. Can you imagine how much that will compound over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Just start small.
Very wise advice. Thank you, Janet. I'm going to go into the next question. It's the phrase, make your money work for you. What does that actually realistically look like? Because we work so hard to get the client, get the right leads, be in the right place, earn that money, and have the client actually pay us. But afterwards, how do we make that money that we just earned work for us now?
Yeah. Hey, let's be honest, we're human. I'm not a bot. I have 24 hours, you have 24 hours, we all have 24 hours. We need to sleep, right? We need to sleep. Even if I want to work 16 hours, this body's not going to let me. It's not sustainable, right? I don't want to have to work till I drop. So making our money work for us really simply mean that putting our money in a place where it can grow and create opportunities instead of sitting idle, right? So for many people, it starts with saving consistently and investing with a long-term perspective. It's just being more intentional about where our money goes. The strategies that will help us grow our wealth, reduce unnecessary taxes, and protect what we've worked really hard to build. In a way, I tell people every dollar has a job. Some dollars are for today's needs. Some are for emergencies. Some are for working towards a future goal, like retirement, or if you have kids, education fund, or down the road, maybe creating that financial freedom. Or if you like to travel, maybe a travel bucket. Right? And so when our money is aligned with our goals and working within our plan, it will continue to grow, even when we're still focused on our career, our family, or our business. I think the important piece is to understand that wealth isn't built through one big decision. It's consistent habits and financial choices made over time. And the earlier that we start giving our money a purpose, the more time it has to work for you, for me, to get it to work.
Well, when should people start thinking about legacy and intergenerational wealth planning? And I'll reframe this question because we talked about kind of like the legacy a lot since our poll number 2 question kind of prompted the long-term wealth and exit planning. But intergenerational wealth planning, like what does it actually mean? Because that's you're a strategist around that.
Yeah. Why, it kind of goes back to my background, how I started. Number one, I want to make sure my parents retire comfortably. They don't have to worry about money. But I also know their goal is whatever they don't spend that they can't take with, they want it to pass to our generation, right? And it's not just to me, but also generations to come, right? And I don't know if you know or if you've heard the saying, in the next 20 to 30 years, there's over $1 trillion of wealth going to be transferred because the baby boomers are passing. Right now, they're just retiring or close to retirement, right? So in the next 20 to 30 years, that's where the wealth is going to get transferred, right? So without proper planning, a lot of it will go to taxes. And you already probably start hearing that in the news or people around you. Maybe more in the news than people around you because people are shameful to share how much taxes they have to pay when a family member passed, right? But I see that a lot with what I do. And so I want to be able to help families to keep that legacy, not just the finances, but also the values, the habits, right? The important things, the memories that we can pass on through generations. Um, at the end of the day, our parents are aging. There are decisions that we need to make, and these decisions will have a lasting impact on our families tomorrow. And the best time to start is when we begin building these assets, when you're building your business, taking these financial responsibilities. So you should pat yourself on the back that you're here to understand a little bit more, right? To be open to see, maybe Sarah, you're like, oh, I already know all this. That's great. Pat yourself on the back. You're on the right track, right?
No, I don't know that.
You're
That's why
here.
I'm
It's
here.
really important.
And I love the fact that Sarah, you said, I don't know everything. I don't either, but I'm open to learning to see if I'm missing something. Even if I have like one or two nuggets, I'm like, okay, I didn't waste my time because I just want to know how I can make it better.
Mhm.
Because there's almost always opportunities to make things better for our loved ones, right? And I found that families who have these conversations early tend to be better prepared and more intentional. Right? Just remember, legacy planning isn't just for the wealthy. It's for anyone who wants to leave their family in a stronger position than where they started. Right? So I always say, if something's happened to us tomorrow, would our loved ones know our wishes? And will they be financially prepared to carry them out? I don't want to have to leave them in a scramble, right? I would think that when I pass, they'd be grieving, so emotionally already distraught. I don't want to add the financial burden on that. And that's why I want to be able to plan ahead for them so I can, minimize that emotional, financial stress on my family, on my loved ones. Yeah.
Giving us so much to think about. It leads me to this next question, which is what habits or mindsets do you think are the most important when building long-term financial confidence? Because right now we've gone through a journey of it's taboo or forbidden to talk about money. We're all here, thank goodness. We're willing, we're open-minded to learn about it. We feel a little bit overwhelmed with a lot of the things that we don't know. So there's a lot of aha moments. But now, as we kind of like near the end of this conversation today, how do we continue that financial confidence to kind of take that step and all of your awesome advices forward?
Yeah, that's a great question as we kind of wrap things up, right, Connie? Number one is don't need to overwhelm yourself and don't think too much, right? Because you've heard the term analysis paralysis. Well, let me figure all of this out before I take the first step. Well, life is busy for all of us. We end up just not doing it, period. Right? Connie, you were saying there's 5 balls to juggle. 4 is glass, 1 is not.
Yeah.
We almost never get to it, right? So number one thing is don't worry about trying to figure it all out and have all the answers, right? Financial confidence comes from taking consistent action, just making these informed decisions over time, right? Many people think that confidence comes first, but in my experience, confidence is built through the process, right? And so the more we understand, follow a plan, see progress, even small progress, the confidence will start seeing. And from a habit perspective, I encourage people to regularly review their finance, like living with intention, saving consistently, continue learning. And just as importantly, focus on what we can control instead of worrying about things that we can't control, like the market or the economic headlines. We can't control any of that, right? And I also found that people make better financial decisions when they shift from a short-term thinking to more of a long-term. How will this affect me today? Instead of asking that, ask how will this impact me, my family, my future 5, 10, 20 years from now? I was listening to a podcast this morning, actually, and they say millionaires and billionaires think in decades, right? So again, we need to think longer term, not shorter term. I know sometimes it's challenging because we all want that instant gratification, right? And so at the end of the day, financial confidence is not built overnight. It's one decision, one habit, one step at a time. Just like building a business, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about having that plan. I don't think any one of us had all the check marks before we start the business. Would you agree? I think we all kind of just started and we pivot, we learn, we worked it out as we go. And that's what it is in finances as well.
Mm. All right. We have some questions that came in privately, so I'm going to help ask them. The first one is, how much should I aim to invest each month if I don't have a regular income? And the secondary question to that one, from the same person is, how can I balance paying off debt and investing? Because I think sometimes debt feels very short term. It's
Yeah.
short term, but then there's that long term of investing as well. So let's maybe try to answer that question first, and then I have another one if things are popping.
Yeah, great. No, those are great questions. I think the number one thing is when we hear the word debt, we cringe, most of us,
Mhm.
right? But there's actually good debt and bad debt. So I want to start with that first, right? A good debt would be, say, your mortgage, because you own your home, for example. Okay. A bad debt would be, say, the credit card and the line of credit. And line of credit typically is a lower interest rate than a credit card. A credit card, you're looking at minimal 19.99%, so 20%. Okay, so we call it, think of this way. I don't know if you heard of the rule of 72. If you want to know how fast your money grows, take 72 divide by the percentage. So I'll give you an example, Connie. If your money is invested in something that'll give you 4%, 72 divided by 4 is 18. But if I'm investing in a 4% investment that will give me 4% rate of return, my money will double every 18 years because 72 divided by 4. Okay. Now, if I invest in something that'll give me, say, 12%, 72 divided by 12 is 6. So my money will double every 6 years. So that's how you use the rule of 72. Okay. So having said that, of course, I want my money to grow at 12% or more. So my money doubles faster. Okay. On the flip side, you can use the rule of 72 on debt. Meaning, so if we take the credit card, say 20%, I'm just rounding.
Yeah.
72 divided by 20 is 3.5 approximately. So if I'm just paying my credit card minimum monthly, my credit card balance will double every 3.5 years. You're shaking your head like,
I'm like, yeah, that's why the bank makes money.
yeah,
Shorter time to kind of double or triple versus us having to invest 6 years to 12 years to get something back in the same amount. I'm like, dude, not a good balance.
absolutely.
I'm very reactionary right now.
And so that's how we use the rule of 72. You have to understand that, right? So
Mhm.
all I'm saying is rule of 72 is great because it tells us how fast our money can grow and double, but at the same time, how fast our debt will also double.
Yeah.
Right? So to answer your question, what do we do? Invest or, pay off debt, right? Of course, ideally, you want to pay off debt, then invest. But you also have to understand what are the percentages? What are the rate of returns? Right? Because, for example, if your debt is only, I don't know, I'm making it up, 5%, but my investment's making 10, well, I might actually not want to pay off my debt and grow my investments more. right? So you have to understand what it is, right? The mortgage debt is low. Unless you're putting your investments in, say, a GIC, very much likely any investment will outpace, the mortgage, right? So I know people don't like this answer, but really it depends. But I hope this gives you an idea, a tool to find out what you should do next.
That was very insightful. Thank you, Janet. And I hope it answers the question for our anonymous member that asked it. The next question that I have from someone else is, you said that I have a question about what she mentioned regarding RRSPs. You said that RRSP might not be the best option and that we should put our money in a better place. If you don't mind sharing, which types of investments or accounts can help reduce taxes or the best place for long-term investment? I think it's like the tax-free savings account, like the three types that you talked about.
Right. Yep. So remember, there is the taxable bucket, the tax deferred bucket, and the tax advantage bucket. In the tax advantage bucket, there's tax-free savings account, right? And there's also the cash value and life insurance, right? And I guess you could put in the first home savings account, but that's really only used for first home buyers. But if you don't use it, you can transfer to RSPs, but that gets tax deferred. Right? So just understand those. And everyone's situation is different. People say, and I know professionals that maximize their RSPs every single year, and they have no money in the tax-free savings account. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting strategy. Help me understand, right? And because I want to know, instead of saying yes or no right away, I want to understand why, what their thinking is, and what their focus was on. And that individual's focus was getting the tax refund. So I had to explain to them the impact, the long-term impact, because they're just looking at the short term that they'll get the money back, right? So it's just understanding all of that pieces as well.
Thank you. We're at our last 9 minutes. So, my friends, if you have not asked a question, if you still have a question you want to ask, feel free to put it in chat or ask it, wave your hands. While we're doing that, I would love to ask Janet this wrap-up question. If everyone attending the session could leave with one important takeaway, because there's so much, golden nuggets that you've shared today, what would that be? What's that one action step, or what would you hope for us to kind of gain from today's session?
Yeah, I think number one is our financial future, all of us, including myself, will not improve by chance. We can't just hope for the best. It improves when you and I have a plan and take action. We do have to take action. There might be a lot of information that's shared today. Some might be new, some you already know. That's great. If you know them, make sure you're actually putting them into action, right? If you don't know them, that's okay. Happy to have a chat and discuss further. And Connie, I appreciate, again, you having me here to share all the information. It might be a lot for some. It's okay. I know you're recording it, so people can replay and take notes and dissect it if that's what they wanted to, right? And we don't have to have everything to figure it out. We don't need an expert. What matter is really, number one, the willingness to start. The willingness to start. Because whether it's understanding where your money is going, reviewing your financial goals, protecting your family, reducing taxes, or creating that long-term wealth strategy, it's really that one small step today that can create a very different future tomorrow. Right? I've seen firsthand how financial education and proper planning can change the trajectory of individuals, families, and even future generation. And the people who often is the one who make the decision, stop putting off. That's what it is. It's the intentional. My encouragement really to everyone is very simple. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Make a decision, take action this week. Start a conversation. Your future self, your family, and your generations that follow will benefit from the decision you make today.
Beautiful. Now, you guys are not off the hook. I still have 7 minutes with all of you. One thing, I've just shared Janet's LinkedIn profile, so please feel free to connect with Janet if you have any further questions or want to connect with her one-on-one. Start there. And if anything at all, if you follow her, she often shares amazing insights and additional things to think about from a financial perspective as well. So definitely give her a follow if you're not going to do a one-on-one. The other thing I would love to hear from everyone is what was your aha moment today? Like your number one aha moment. So Sarah, you're not muted, so I'm going back to you first.
I think just well, just yeah, speaking about like what the definition of wealth is. Like that was really interesting to me. And because for me, I think with my life history of losing people pretty young, it's like I'm not interested in all that like superficial stuff. It's more like just being comfortable and just, being having security, like that kind of thing. So that was interesting just to the way you pushed in on that the idea of what that definition is to people. And then it informs all, everything like your money habits and everything you do and how you save money and everything. So yeah, that was really interesting. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Erin.
I think my aha moment was, especially as someone who's freelancing and like my income's always fluctuating, it's interesting. It was interesting to hear you about when you were talking about like what to do with your money. Because I feel like for me, I have it sitting around a lot of the time, and it's good to think about like what my money's going to be doing in the future rather than just have it do nothing right now in my account. So that was good.
Thanks, Erin. Look, Simone.
So my aha moment, I love the wealth equations. It's kind of give me an idea on what I have to thinking about in terms of I put money here, what is gonna happen, and the T type of tax. That's very complicated. Yeah, I'll have a lot to learn. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Shireen.
For me, it connected the part where we understood that it's very important to at least start somewhere. Maybe not early, maybe not late, just to start somewhere. I think so. It's very important to start somewhere and, to understand how to build wealth. And apart from that, how to take informed decisions, understanding tasks. It's very important. And I've never thought about those things before. I was just like, okay, this is important. I need to pay taxes. So I just pay the taxes. But now I'm going to question myself and understand it more in a better way, and also like start thinking about investing and things like that. Yeah.
Thank you, Shireen. And Daniel.
Yeah, I think one of my aha moments was like, throughout my life, I heard a lot of these buzzwords like good debt, bad debt, and all this sort of stuff, but I didn't actually know what that really meant. And it was really good to hear you sort of delve into it a little deeper. And you've given me a lot of like thoughts and things that I should look into further down the road after this call. Like I thought the RRSP was just something I could just chuck money into and down the line it'll help me. But then you were like, ah, yes, ticking time bomb. I'm like, okay, maybe not. So this has definitely been very eye opening, and I should probably look into some of these things a little more.
If
So
I
yeah, thank
would
you.
Thank you.
make one suggestion for everyone here, I think number one is there was a lot of info shared, right? Definitely go back to the replay. Pick three things, just three. Pick three things that you want to focus on this week, or maybe even this month, right? And just start there. Just start there. Because I find that a lot of times all of us are busy. Once we log off and go exit, we don't do anything and nothing changes. Then guess what? This hour and a half of your time is wasted, right? Don't waste it. Just focus on three things and then get started slowly and slowly. And the reason why I focus so much on tax is because it's almost like it's a hidden thing. People don't think about it. And in Canada, the more we make, the more taxes we pay. So if we can understand how tax work, we can keep more in our pockets, and that's the key. And of course, I always say this, legally. Do it legally. Connie, back to you.
Thank you very much, Janet. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I know this is a topic that's not always comfortable, but for you to take the step in and join us and also be very thoughtful in your aha moments that you've shared and also just listening in, I really appreciate it. And I do hope that you're able to kind of rewatch. We'll be sharing it on our website within the next 48 hours. So you'll have a chance to kind of rewatch and take away your top 3 things. And if anything at all, there's one, if you look at Janet's post that she shared, there's one that's a beautiful picture of a sushi lunch that she had with the client. And I shared this pre everyone joining, is that it's never too late to start the conversation, but definitely now that you've started from today, don't wait. And actually read that story, the sushi post story, the lunch, because her client actually just retired and she only helped them 4 years ago to be where they are today. So it's never too late to be financially confident, but also be on the right path with the right strategy that helps with their unique needs and situation as well. So Janet, you are amazing. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to start our journey with you and figuring out what my next steps are.
Thank you, Connie. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone here, for spending the last hour and a half with us. I appreciate you. And you know what? Together, we can help each other and we can make such a big impact to ourselves, to our family, and our loved ones.
Beautiful. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.